At exactly 2:13 a.m., Max looked up at the sky and froze. The moon was gone, not hidden behind clouds, not covered by mist, not dim or fading. Just completely gone. The stars were still shining. The sky was clear. But the moon, the one thing he looked at every single night on his shift, was missing. Max was a night security guard at a small warehouse on the edge of town. His job was boring, and the nights were long, but he didn't mind much. He liked the quiet. And every night during his 2 a.m. coffee break, he stepped outside, leaned on the cold metal railing, and looked up at the moon. It had become part of his routine, something peaceful, something steady, but not tonight. He rubbed his eyes and looked, again. Still no moon. He walked to the center of the parking lot, thinking maybe a tree or the building was blocking his view, but there was nothing in the way. The moon should have been there, right above the eastern ridge. That's where it always was at this hour. He knew that sky like the back of his hand. But tonight, it was just stars. Only stars. Max frowned. Maybe there were clouds he couldn't see? He pulled out his phone and opened a weather app. The forecast said clear skies. No clouds, no storms, nothing strange. He opened another app that tracked the moon's location. According to the app, the moon was supposed to be in the exact spot he was staring at. His heart beat a little faster. He tried not to panic. Maybe it was a glitch. Maybe something was wrong with his eyes. He blinked a few times, then looked. Again, still nothing. The moon had disappeared. Max called his cousin Dave, who lived in another city 2 hours away. Dave picked up, sleepy and annoyed. "Do you see the moon right now?" Max asked quickly. "What? Dude, it's the middle of the night. Just look out your window, please." Dave grumbled but walked to the window. A pause. Then, "Yeah, it's there." "Why?" Max felt cold. He turned slowly and looked back up. Still nothing. "I don't see it," he whispered. Dave laughed. "You okay, man? Did you hit your head or something?" "I'm serious," Max said. "It's just not there." "Maybe your town's in a weird shadow or something," Dave said, still half asleep. "Go drink some water." Max hung up. He didn't think Dave would understand. He wasn't sure he understood either. He opened a few more websites. Space, news, local news, a stargazing forum. Everyone was talking about the moon, normal stuff. "Looks so bright tonight," one post said. Another had a photo someone took with their telescope. Max stared at the screen. According to the rest of the world, the moon hadn't gone anywhere. So why couldn't he see it? His hand shook a little as he unlocked the door to the office and grabbed the digital camera from the lost and found box. He hadn't used a real camera in years, but the zoom on it was better than his phone. He walked back outside and pointed it at the sky where the moon should be. He clicked the shutter. The screen showed a black sky filled with stars. No moon. He zoomed in, clicked again. Still no moon. He zoomed in more. 100%. 200. 3. That's when he saw it. His eyes narrowed as he stared at the tiny black spot in the middle of the image. It wasn't a star. It wasn't a planet. It was a dark shape, small, almost invisible. But it was there. And it was moving. Max leaned forward. The shape wasn't just floating, it was shifting. Almost like crawling. Something alive. He hit the video button and recorded the zoomed-in shot for 10 seconds. The shape twitched, moved left, then paused. Max's heart was thudding now. This wasn't a camera glitch. Something was up there, something where the moon should be. He looked up at the sky again without the camera. Still nothing. No moon. But he knew something was hiding in its place. His skin crawled. He didn't know what it was, but he knew one thing for sure. This night was different, and something was very, very wrong. Max couldn't sleep that morning. Even after his shift ended, he kept looking at the sky. The moon never returned. At sunrise, the strange darkness faded, and the sky looked normal again. But something inside him didn't feel normal at all. His body was tired, but his mind was racing. He couldn't stop thinking about what he had seen, or what he hadn't seen. That missing moon. That small, moving shape in the camera zoom. He needed answers. He waited until the sun was fully up, then sat at his old desk and connected the camera to his laptop. He opened the video he had recorded. It was still there. That strange dot. The way it moved. It didn't feel like a satellite or a plane. It felt alive. Slow, creeping, like it was watching from above. Max took screenshots from the video and saved them. Then he uploaded the best one to an online forum for amateur astronomers. He made the post title short. "The moon was gone last night. Saw this instead. Anyone else?" He clicked post and waited. Within 5 minutes, comments started rolling in. "Fake. Nice Photoshop, bro. Just a dead pixel." But then one comment stood out. "Where are you located? I saw something too. Not sure what." Max replied quickly, sharing his town name. A few others joined in. One user from another state wrote, "I thought I was losing my mind. Moon vanished. For about an hour. No one else noticed." Another wrote, "I saw the same black shape. I thought it was a drone at first." Max's hands trembled as he read the messages. He wasn't the only one. He felt a small wave of relief, but it didn't last long. 10 minutes after posting the photo, Max's phone rang. The number was hidden. No caller ID. He hesitated, then picked up. A cold, flat voice spoke. "Delete the picture. Now." Max froze. "Who is this?" "Delete it," the voice repeated, more forceful this time. "Forget what you saw." Then the call ended. Max stared at the phone. His skin turned cold. He called the number back. Nothing. It didn't even ring. Just dead silence. He turned back to the forum, and his heart sank. His post was gone. No trace. No comments, no history. It was like it never existed. He refreshed the page again and again, nothing. Max's breathing grew heavy. He checked his computer folders. The photo was still there. He backed it up to a flash drive just in case. Then suddenly, his screen glitched. A sharp static flickered across the display for 2 seconds. Then everything returned to normal. His stomach dropped. He opened the photo again and screamed. It was gone, not deleted. Still there in name. But the image had changed. Now it was just a blank shot of stars. No black shape. No movement. Just a normal sky. Max checked the original video. It had been replaced by a file error. Corrupted. He backed away from the desk, slowly, like something might reach out of the screen. His thoughts spun. Who were these people? How did they find him so fast? How could they erase everything? A sudden knock at the door made him jump. He turned sharply, staring at the wooden door. 3 soft knocks. No doorbell. No footsteps. Just silence after the sound. He moved slowly toward it, looked through the peephole. Nobody. He unlocked it and opened it anyway, heart racing. There was no one there. But something had been left on the ground. An envelope. Max picked it up carefully. No name, no address. Just a strange symbol on the front. 2 crescent moons overlapping each other, one black, one white. He took it inside and opened it. Inside was a single photo. A printed image of the moon. But not from last night. This one was older, faded. It looked like it had been taken decades ago, grainy, black and white. But it wasn't the moon itself that made Max's hands start to shake again. It was the face. Barely visible in the shadow of a crater, was a face. Human-like. Watching. Silent, Max dropped the photo. He backed away, heart thudding like a drum. His breath caught in his throat. He picked it up again just to be sure. It was still there, that face, looking straight at the camera. Suddenly, his phone lit up again. A text message. Unknown number. "This is your only warning. Stop looking up." Max stared at the message. Then back at the photo. Something was happening. Something nobody was supposed to see, but he had seen it, and he wasn't going to stop. Not yet. Not until he knew what was really hiding in the sky. He walked to the window, pulled the curtain aside, and looked up. It was daytime now, but he had the strange feeling that something was still up there waiting. Max didn't go to work that night. He called in sick, something he never did. After the strange phone call, the deleted photo, and the creepy envelope with the moon picture, he knew he needed to stay home. His mind was a storm of questions. Who had sent that warning? What was that shape in the sky? And most importantly, why was no one else talking about it? He didn't sleep. He just sat on his couch, staring at the window, waiting for something to happen. Every small sound made him jump. He checked his phone every few minutes, half expecting another message to pop up. But nothing came. The silence made it worse. It was like the calm before a storm. At exactly 3:33 a.m., there was a knock at the door. Not loud, not soft, just calm. Max froze. His mouth went dry. He looked at the time again. 3:33. Why did that number feel so strange? The knock came again. 3 times. He stood slowly, grabbed a small flashlight from the table and walked to the door. He didn't speak, didn't ask who it was, he just looked through the peephole. There was a man standing outside, tall, wearing a black suit, pale skin, black sunglasses, even in the middle of the night. He wasn't holding anything. He wasn't moving, just standing there like he had all the time in the world. Max's heart pounded. Every instinct told him to lock the door and stay silent. But something made him open it. The door creaked as it opened just a few inches. The man didn't smile, didn't blink. He spoke in a low, calm voice. "You saw it, didn't you?" Max swallowed hard. "Saw what?" The man tilted his head slightly. "Don't lie, Max." Max's eyes widened. "How do you know my name?" The man ignored the question. "You took a picture. You posted it. You weren't supposed to." "Who are you?" Max asked, voice shaking. "Are you with the government?" The man didn't answer. Instead, he reached into his coat pocket and slowly pulled out a folded piece of paper. Max took a step back, but the man made no threatening moves. "This is from 1978, the man said. "Read it, then forget all of this." He placed the paper gently on the floor and turned to walk away. "Wait," Max said, stepping out onto the porch. "What's happening? What did I see up there?" The man stopped but didn't turn around. "If you keep looking," he said, "it will look back." Then he walked down the street, disappearing into the darkness without another word. Max watched him go, his whole body trembling. He picked up the paper. It was an old newspaper article, yellowed and torn at the edges. The headline read, "Moon disappears over Gray Lake. Town blames strange weather." Max's hands tightened around the paper. He read the article slowly. It described a small town in Alaska where the moon vanished from the sky for 3 nights, in a row. Locals reported seeing shadows above the trees. A few claimed to hear humming sounds. One man went missing after staring at the sky too long. The town was called Gray Lake. Max had never heard of it before. He checked online, but there was no trace of it. No map results, no news, nothing. It was like the place had been erased. He looked back at the article. The final line sent chills through him. Officials say the sky returned to normal, but locals warn, never look up when the moon goes missing. Max sat back on the couch, heart pounding. He thought about the black shape he had seen, the face in the crater, the text message telling him to stop. But now, he didn't want to stop. He needed to find this place. He needed to see what really happened in Gray Lake. The next morning, Max booked a flight to Alaska. He didn't tell anyone. He packed light, just clothes, a camera, a notebook, and the article. Before leaving, he looked out the window one last time. The moon was back in the sky. But it didn't feel right. It looked too still, too quiet. As if it wasn't a moon at all. As if it was watching him. Max arrived in Alaska just after sunset. The cold air hit him as soon as he stepped off the plane. He had never been this far north before. The small-town airport was quiet, almost empty. No crowds, no noise. Just silence. And that same heavy feeling in his chest, the one that started the night the moon disappeared. He rented a car and drove for hours. The roads became smaller and darker. Trees lined both sides like tall, silent watchers. His GPS didn't recognize the place he was looking for. Every time he typed Gray Lake, it said location not found. But Max had written down the old directions from the newspaper. Take Route 17 north. Turn left where the trees bend toward the road. Drive until the air feels strange. Strange advice, but he followed it. Hours passed. His phone lost signal. No internet, no map, just the sound of tires on gravel and the hum of his own breathing. Then finally he saw it, a rusted sign barely standing at the edge of the trees. Welcome to Gray Lake. Pop. There was no number, just question marks. Max stopped the car and stared at the sign. It looked like no one had touched it in decades. Rust covered the metal, vines wrapped around the post. The town didn't feel abandoned, but it didn't feel alive either. He drove in slowly. The streets were narrow and cracked. The houses looked old but not destroyed. Some had lights on. Some didn't. He saw no people, no kids, no dogs, no sound. He parked near what looked like the town square. A small general store, a post office, a church. All silent. Max got out and walked toward the store. The door creaked as he opened it. A small bell rang above his head. Behind the counter stood an old man with gray eyes. He didn't smile. You're not from here, the man said quietly. Max nodded. I'm looking for answers, he replied, about the moon. The man's face didn't change. You saw it, didn't you? Yes, Max whispered. And something else. Something was there. Hiding where the moon should be, the old man looked around the store, then motioned Max closer. You need to leave, he said firmly. This place isn't on maps for a reason. I can't leave, Max said. I saw a photo. From 1978. A man in a suit gave it to me. He told me to forget. I can't. I need to know what's going on. The old man sighed. You should have forgotten. You should have listened. He reached below the counter and pulled out a small box. Inside were dozens of old black and white photos. Max leaned over and looked. Every picture showed the moon, but in each one something was wrong. One photo showed a large shadow over it, like a claw. Another had a strange hole, like something had burrowed into it. And in one photo, the moon had a single glowing eye. These were taken by people who came before you, the old man said. They all saw something. They all came here. They all wanted answers. What happened to them? Max asked. The man looked away. Most disappeared. Some went mad, a few stayed. Max felt cold again. Stayed? They didn't leave, the old man said. They started seeing it even during the day, even when they closed their eyes. Once you notice it, once it notices you, it doesn't let go. Max looked back at the photos. His hands trembled. Where can I go? He asked. Where did it all start? The man hesitated, then pointed out the window. The lake, he said. That's where it always begins. Max drove to the edge of Gray Lake an hour later. It was completely still. No wind, no birds, just water like glass, stretching out under the starlit sky. He stood at the shore, the cold creeping into his bones. He looked up. The moon was there. But it looked wrong again. Too perfect. Too round. Too quiet. He pulled out his camera, zoomed, Incan and gasped. The black shape was there again, only now it was bigger, much bigger, and this time, it was moving toward him. Max's heart dropped as he stared through the camera screen. The black shape near the moon wasn't still this time. It moved slowly, like it was drifting toward Earth. But that wasn't what made him step back in fear. It was how the shape seemed to be looking at him. As if it knew he was watching again. He lowered the camera. The lake in front of him remained calm. Too calm. He could hear his own breath, shaky and fast. The trees stood like frozen guards around the water. No wind, no sound, just silence. Then, a ripple, right in the middle of the lake. Max froze. The ripple widened, gentle at first, then stronger. Something was rising. Not fast, just enough to disturb the glassy surface. Max stepped closer, squinting at the dark water. Something was under there. He backed away slowly and raised the camera again, switching to night vision mode. What appeared on the screen made his stomach twist. There was a shape beneath the water, large, round, almost the size of a house. And it wasn't natural. Its surface looked smooth, almost like metal, but with strange lines carved into it. Symbols or maybe letters that glowed faintly in the dark green of the lake. It pulsed like it was alive. Then the shape shifted. It rotated slightly, and Max saw something that made him stop breathing. An eye, huge, round, and faintly glowing, just like the one from the old photo. It blinked. Max stumbled back, dropping the camera. It splashed into the shallow edge of the lake, but he didn't reach for it. He couldn't move, he couldn't think. Then the humming started. Low, at first. A deep vibration like a faraway engine, but it wasn't coming from the sky. It was coming from beneath him, from the ground. He looked down. The earth at his feet began to crack slightly. Tiny threads of black light pushed through the cracks, glowing like veins. He ran. He didn't care where. He just ran. Away from the lake, away from the thing in the water, away from the sound in his bones. He reached his car, jumped inside, and slammed the door. His hands were shaking too hard to put the key in at first. When the engine finally started, he drove without looking back. As he sped through the empty streets of Gray Lake, he saw lights turn on in some houses. Curtains moved, faces peeked out, old pale faces. Some just stared. Others shook their heads, like they'd seen this happen before. He kept going, out of the town, out of the woods. He didn't stop until the GPS came back and the signal bars returned. He pulled into a gas station an hour later and just sat in the car, breathing hard, staring at the empty road ahead. His phone buzzed. A new message. Unknown number. You saw beneath it. That was a mistake. He turned off the phone, but it buzzed again immediately. You brought something back with you. Max stared at the message. Then he looked in the rearview mirror and froze. The reflection behind him showed the back seat empty. But something was off. The window glass looked darker. The shape of the trees outside seemed bent, like they weren't in the same position they had been seconds before. He stepped out of the car and turned to look directly. Everything looked normal. But when he looked, again in the mirror, the sky had a crack in it, a thin black line like glass about to shatter. Max slammed the mirror upward so he wouldn't have to see it anymore. Whatever he had found in Gray Lake. It was following him now. Maybe it was always meant to. Max didn't sleep that night. He checked into a small roadside motel far from Gray Lake, but sleep was impossible. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the shape beneath the lake, the massive eye, and the black crack in the sky. He kept looking out the window, afraid the stars would shift again, afraid the moon would vanish a second time. The strange part was, nobody else noticed anything. He went online, searched news channels, space reports, weather alerts, nothing. The moon was still there for everyone. Perfect, bright, ordinary. But Max knew better. He had seen what was behind it, or maybe inside it. At 2:13 a.m., the exact same time the moon had disappeared the first night, Max's phone vibrated again. New message. You looked again. Max stared at the screen. Then came another message. They are looking back. He felt the pressure in his ears before he even heard the noise. A low hum started to rise in the air around him. The room lights flickered. The mirror on the wall began to shake gently. Then the crack reappeared. Not on the mirror, but in the reflection of the night sky behind him. Max stood up slowly and walked to the window. He didn't want to look, but he had to. The sky looked normal, but only at first. Then he saw it again. A thin black line, like a fracture running across the stars. It moved, the crack widened, and then something blinked behind it. A second moon. No, not a moon. It had the shape, but it was wrong. It pulsed, like it was breathing. Its surface wasn't rock, it was skin, and it had no light of its own. It only reflected darkness. Suddenly Max's phone buzzed once more. Run! He didn't hesitate this time. He grabbed his backpack, slammed the door behind him, and jumped into his car. As he sped down the highway, something strange began to happen around him. The world started to feel thin. The air shimmered like heat on a summer road, but it was freezing cold outside. The radio in his car turned on by itself. Static at first, then whispers. He couldn't understand the words, but they were repeating something over and over. He turned it off. The windshield began to fog, except the fog wasn't on the glass. It was inside the air itself. The shadows on the road started to stretch. He looked up. The crack in the sky had grown wider. It looked like a giant tear, as if reality itself was ripping apart. Then his headlights caught something, a figure standing in the middle of the road. He slammed on the brakes. The tires screamed. The car skidded sideways. Max stopped just inches from hitting it. It was the man in the black suit. But now, his face was cracked like a broken mask. His eyes were completely white. He didn't move. Max rolled the window down halfway. "What's happening?" he shouted. "What do they want?" The man in black tilted his head slowly. "You opened it." Max's voice shook. "Opened what?" "The shell," the man whispered. "You weren't supposed to." Behind him in the distance, Max saw the second moon start to shift. It peeled apart like a blooming flower. And inside it, tentacles, eyes, teeth that weren't meant for any world. Not a moon, not even a ship. A prison. And something inside it was waking up. Max turned back to the man, but he was gone. No sound, no trace. Max drove again, this time not to escape, but to warn someone, anyone. But the deeper into the night he drove, the more the world around him changed. Road signs twisted into shapes he couldn't read. Streetlights flickered in patterns. And every time he looked up, the crack in the sky widened. Earth wasn't breaking. Something else was breaking, and Max now realized something that chilled him to the bone. The moon didn't disappear that night, it blinked. Max drove through the night, but it no longer felt like Earth. The roads looked familiar, yet nothing around them felt real. The sky above was tearing wider. That black crack stretched across the stars like a wound that would never heal. And now something inside it was moving. Slow, massive, and hungry. He tried calling someone, anyone, but his phone had stopped working completely. No signal, no battery warning. It just glowed black, as if it too was watching him. Even the radio was silent now. Not even static, just a dead hum like a breath being held. Max pulled over on the side of the road. His hands were shaking. He needed to think. He needed air. He stepped outside the car, and the silence wrapped around him like a blanket. The trees were still. The wind was gone. It felt like time itself had stopped. And then, a whisper. It didn't come from behind him or beside him. It came from above. Max looked up. The crack in the sky was no longer just a line. It had opened into a circle. A perfect black ring. And inside it 1,000 eyes stared down at him. One of them blinked. Max fell to his knees, holding his head. The image seared into his mind like fire. The eyes didn't look angry. They looked disappointed. Like he was just another broken thing trying to understand something too big for him. The wind returned suddenly, but it wasn't wind. It was breathing. From the sky. From whatever was inside the moon. From whatever he had accidentally set free. Then he heard footsteps, soft, careful, coming toward him from behind. He turned and saw a girl, maybe 8 or 9 years old, pale skin, long dark hair, barefoot, wearing a white nightgown. Max stood slowly. "Are you okay? Where did you come from?" The girl didn't speak at first. She looked up at the sky, then at Max. "They're almost here," she said softly. "Who's coming?" Max asked, heart pounding. She pointed to the sky. "The ones that used the moon as a door. You opened it too wide." "I didn't mean to," Max said quickly. "I was just trying to understand. I just wanted the truth." The girl looked at him again. Her eyes were too old, not human. "There is no truth," she whispered. "Only warnings, and you ignored them." Then she vanished, not walked away, not ran, just blinked out of sight. Max stumbled backward in fear. His car engine turned on by itself. The lights flashed. The radio spoke one final word: "Run." Max jumped in, floored the gas pedal, and didn't stop. He didn't know where he was going, but he knew what would happen if he stayed. The moon was no longer the moon. It was a mask, a thin shell over something alive, and now it was waking up. Every few miles, Max saw the same thing: people standing in fields, staring up. Some were crying, some were smiling. Most were just still, like statues. Like the thing in the sky had already touched their minds. Then the whispering started again, but this time it came from inside his car, from the back seat. He didn't look. He couldn't. The voice said his name. Max. He felt tears on his face and didn't know when they had started. The crack above him was nearly full now. The stars were vanishing, one by one, like someone was turning off the universe. And then, the moon blinked again. Everything stopped. No sound, no light, no time, just one moment of silence, then, boom! A sound so deep and massive it wasn't heard with ears. It was felt in bones, in skin, in memory. Max screamed, though he didn't know why. He wasn't in the car anymore. He wasn't on Earth anymore. He was floating, alone, in a dark space filled with eyes. So many eyes. A voice spoke, not with words, but with meaning. "You looked up, and now we see you." Max opened his mouth to speak, but his body was no longer his. His thoughts were unraveling. His memories stretched and snapped. Then he woke up, back in his apartment. Morning sunlight through the window, the moon in the sky. Whole, peaceful, normal. But Max didn't smile, because now he knew. The moon hadn't disappeared that night. It had opened, and one day soon, it will open again. Max sat on the floor of his apartment, staring at the morning light like it wasn't real. The room looked the same. His phone was working again. The world outside seemed normal. People walked to work, cars moved down the streets, birds sang. Everything was calm, but inside Max everything had changed. He remembered it all. The crack in the sky, the thing inside the moon, the girl who vanished, the whispers, the second blink, and that voice, too big for words, telling him, "You looked up, and now we see you." He knew what that meant. They weren't done. They were only beginning. He tried to warn people. He called the news. He posted videos. He sent emails, but no one believed him. The videos didn't show what he saw. The photos he took were blank. Just a normal sky, a normal moon, a normal night. Everyone thought he was sick, crazy, tired, but Max could feel it in his chest, like a ticking clock getting louder every day. Then came the signs. The news began reporting strange events around the world. People disappearing in their sleep. Entire towns losing power at exactly 2:13 a.m. Pilots claiming the sky wasn't real during long flights. A group of astronauts on the ISS went silent. One of them sent a final message. "The moon is hollow. It's not ours." Max knew the truth. He hadn't imagined it. They were coming, and no one would believe it until it was too late. That night, Max climbed to the roof of his apartment building. He sat there with his camera, watching the sky. He didn't expect peace. He didn't expect answers. He just wanted to see it happen with his own eyes. The city below was quiet. The lights from the windows looked warm and safe. But above, the sky was wrong again. He saw the crack return, slow, small at first, then wider, and this time others saw it too. From neighboring rooftops, Max heard voices shouting, "What is that? Is that the moon breaking?" Phones came out. People started recording. The crack spread like ink in water, tearing across the stars. Then came the silence. Not just in the air, the silence inside people. Max watched in horror as the others around him went still. Not asleep, not fainting, just empty. Eyes open, mouths closed, minds gone. One by one, they stood still like statues. Their eyes turned white, their faces calm. The moon blinked again, and this time the mask broke. The surface of the moon peeled away like a scab. Beneath it was a living shape, a sphere made of black skin and pulsing lights. Lines of glowing symbols ran across it like veins. From it came tendrils, long, reaching, moving across space like they were searching, and they found Earth. Max watched as the tendrils extended, not physically, but through light and time. They weren't touching Earth. They were rewriting it. People everywhere dropped their phones. Streets went dark. Planes fell from the sky. Reality folded. Max looked at his hands and saw them blur like static on a screen. The building beneath him cracked, but there was no sound. Only that deep hum again. The hum of something that had waited too long to be free. Then the voice came again. "You were warned," Max screamed into the sky. "What do you want? Why me?" The answer was simple. "You saw us." And then Max understood. It wasn't a punishment, it was a chain. Seeing them meant they could enter. And now, through him, through the others who looked too closely, they were spreading. Reality began to dissolve like smoke. Cities folding in on themselves. Oceans falling upward. The stars turning off. Max felt his body lift, pulled toward the sky. He was no longer afraid. He was calm because the truth had never been hidden. It was always above them, waiting, watching, behind the mask of the moon. Then the last light vanished, and Max's voice and the voices of billions were replaced by silence. Because this wasn't invasion, it was return, and Earth had always belonged to them.